My name is Violet
Cô
Harper.
gái áo
I'm
hồng
22 years old, the second
nói
daughter of the
cô
Harper
gái áo
family, an
xám.
American family that looks perfect in Christmas cards but functions more like a pressure cooker about to explode. And on this particular Saturday morning, I was about to become the reason it finally
How
did.
could you do this
The
to me after
kitchen smelled like
everything? I
coffee and
told you
something
never to come
sour I
back
couldn't
here.
Oh,
identify.
please stop
Maybe
yelling. You're
resentment.
being dramatic.
Maybe the overripe bananas Lindsay kept forgetting to throw away. I shuffled in wearing my oversized Yale hoodie, a gift from Dad when I thought I'd go to law school, and ratty sweatpants, my dark hair thrown into a messy bun that hadn't seen a brush in 2 days. It was barely 8 a.m. The sunlight was still weak, filtering through the kitchen window in pale streaks that made everything look washed out and tired. Just like I felt. Lindsay was already there. Of course she was. My sister-in-law stood in front of the open refrigerator, one hand on her hip, wearing a matching athleisure set that probably cost more than my monthly phone bill. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a perfect high ponytail, not a strand out of place, makeup already done, even though it was the weekend. She looked like she'd walked off an Instagram fitness influencer's page. She also looked like she was about to start something. "Morning," I mumbled, reaching for a bowl from the cabinet. Silence. I could feel her eyes on me, that particular quality of stare that makes your skin crawl. I'd learned over the past 8 months, since Spencer married her, that the safest strategy was to ignore it. Don't engage. Don't react. Just get your cereal and disappear. But today, apparently, Lindsay wanted a fight. "You know," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, "a decent person would say good morning properly." I paused, bowl in hand, and took a slow breath. Here we go. I did say morning. No. She stepped away from the fridge, closing it with more force than necessary. You mumbled something under your breath like I'm not even worth acknowledging. There's a difference between greeting someone and whatever that was. I turned to face her, exhaustion settling into my bones. Lindsay was 28, only 6 years older than me, but she carried herself like she was the matriarch of the family. Ever since she married my brother, she'd decided that gave her authority over everything. The house rules, the dinner conversations, and apparently how I was supposed to say good morning. "Lindsay, I just woke up. I'm not trying to disrespect you." "But you are." Her blue eyes narrowed. "Every single day, you walk around to this house like I don't exist. Like I'm not family. Your brother works so hard to provide for all of us, and you can't even show his wife basic courtesy?" Something snapped inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a small, quiet break, like a guitar string finally giving way under too much tension. "Provide for all of us?" I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Lindsay, I pay rent. I buy my own groceries. The only thing Spencer provides for me is a constant headache." Her face flushed red. "How dare you! Daniel!" she shrieked. I closed my eyes. Of course. She always did this. Create conflict, escalate it, then summon my brother like he was her personal attack dog. "His name is Spencer," I muttered. "What?" "Nothing. Sat." The footsteps came exactly 10 seconds later. Heavy, deliberate, each one a warning. My brother appeared in the doorway, and I was reminded, like I always was, how much he'd changed since he got married. Spencer Harper at 30 looked like someone who'd stepped out of a gym supplement ad. 6'2", broad shoulders, the kind of build that comes from religious dedication to protein shakes and bench presses. His dark hair was cropped short, his jaw perpetually set in what our mother called his serious face. He used to be the brother who taught me how to ride a bike, who chased off Tommy Richardson when the kid wouldn't stop pulling my hair in 5th grade. Now he was just this. Someone who used his size to intimidate, especially when Lindsay wound him up. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded, his voice already accusatory. Lindsay pointed at me like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "She disrespected me. Again." I tried to have a civil conversation, and she laughed in my face. "That's not," I started. "She's impossible, Spencer." Lindsay's voice cracked, and I watched in real time as she manufactured tears. Her eyes got shiny. Her bottom lip trembled. Her hands fluttered to her chest like she was having heart palpitations. It was a performance I'd seen at least a dozen times, and it always worked. I've tried so hard to be good to her, to welcome her, to treat her like a sister, and she treats me like I'm nothing. Spencer's face darkened. Is this true, Violet? No. I said morning when I walked in. That's literally it. With an attitude, Lindsay interjected, wiping at dry eyes. With this tone like I'm beneath her. I can't keep doing this, Spencer. I can't keep being disrespected in my own home. It's not your home, I said quietly. It's Mom and Dad's home. Wrong thing to say. Spencer's jaw clenched. You need to apologize to my wife, right now. I stared at him, this stranger wearing my brother's face. For what? For existing? For your attitude, for your disrespect, for acting like you're above everyone else in this house. My hands started to shake, not from fear, from pure distilled frustration. I'm not apologizing for something I didn't do. Then you're grounded. The word hung in the air like something absurd and impossible. I'm sorry, what? You heard me. Spencer stepped forward, using his height the way he always did, trying to tower over me. You're grounded until you apologize to Lindsay. No phone, no car keys. You stay in your room except for meals. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Actually laughed. Spencer, I'm 22 years old. You can't ground me like I'm 12. As long as you live in this house, he said, voice rising, you follow the rules, my rules, and you will show my wife respect or there will be consequences. Behind him, Lindsay's expression shifted. Just for a second, a small, victorious smile played at the corners of her mouth, quickly hidden when Spencer glanced back at her. That's when something inside me shifted, not broke, shifted. Like tectonic plates moving beneath the surface, rearranging the landscape of who I was willing to be. How long? I asked, my voice steady despite my racing heart. What? How long am I grounded? Spencer crossed his arms. Until Lindsay decides to forgive you, and she won't until you show real remorse. Real remorse. For a crime I didn't commit, in a house I paid to live in. From a brother who once took a punch for me when Craig Donovan tried to steal my backpack in middle school. Spencer, I said quietly, I'm not apologizing. Not for this. His face turned the color of overcooked beef. What did you just say? I said no. You don't get to control me like I'm your property. I'm not your wife, thank God, and I'm not your child. You live here for free, he shouted. I pay rent. $600 a month to Mom and Dad, which you'd know if you paid attention to anything other than your own ego. Lindsay gasped like I'd physically struck her. Spencer, did you hear how she's talking to you? You will apologize, Spencer said, his voice dropping to something dangerous and low. Or you will stay in your room. No phone, no laptop, no car, nothing. Until you learn your place. Your place. Those two words crystallized everything. This wasn't about respect. This wasn't about a greeting. This was about power. About Spencer and Lindsay needing someone beneath them, someone they could control, someone who would validate their authority in a house that wasn't even theirs. Fine, I said softly. I'll go to my room. Spencer blinked, surprised I'd given in so easily. Lindsay's smile returned, less hidden this time. Good, my brother said. Maybe some time alone will help you think about your behavior. I turned and walked toward the stairs, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. Behind me, I heard Lindsay whisper something to Spencer, heard him grunt in agreement. I heard the coffee maker beep, heard Lindsay's laugh, light and airy, like she'd just won something important. I climbed the stairs to my room, closed the door, and sat on my bed, and I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch my pillow or write angry journal entries or do any of the things I'd done the previous dozen times they'd cornered me like this. Instead, I felt calm, unnaturally calm, the kind of calm that comes right before a storm, when the air pressure drops and every animal instinct says, take cover. I looked around my room, the same room I'd had since I was 7. The walls were still painted the lavender color I'd chosen in 4th grade. My bookshelf was crammed with everything from Harry Potter to business textbooks. My desk held my laptop, my second monitor, my mechanical keyboard, the tools of the trade I'd been building in secret. Because here's what Spencer and Lindsay didn't know. I wasn't trapped. I had options. I had money. I had skills. And I had something else too. Something I'd discovered 3 months ago. Something I'd kept to myself because I didn't know what to do with it. But now I knew exactly what to do with it. I walked to my door and pressed my ear against it, listening. I could hear their voices downstairs, muffled but audible. Spencer's lower rumble, Lindsay's higher pitch. They were still in the kitchen, probably celebrating their victory. I waited 5 minutes, then 10. Then I heard Spencer say, "I'm going to take a shower," and the sound of his footsteps heading to their bedroom on the second floor. And then I heard something I wasn't supposed to hear. Lindsay's voice, just on the other side of my door. She must have come upstairs without me noticing, must have been standing in the hallway. But she wasn't alone. She was on the phone. "Mom, I can't do this anymore," Lindsay said, her voice thick with actual tears this time. Not performative ones, real ones. "Every time I see her, I remember. I remember the baby, and I remember how his parents looked at me after, like I was broken, and she gets to walk around here like nothing's wrong with her, like she's perfect, and My breath caught. "I know it's not her fault," Lindsay continued, voice breaking. "I know that, but I lost my baby 6 months ago, and nobody in this house even talks about it anymore. George and Evelyn just moved on. Spencer moved on. And Violet's here, young and healthy and free, and I can't stop hating her for it. I know it's wrong, I know it's terrible, but I can't stop." Silence. Her mother must have been responding. "No, Spencer doesn't know I feel this way. He thinks I'm just being territorial or whatever. But it's not about territory. It's about the fact that I see her and I see everything I'll never have. Everything that died." My hand was pressed against the door now, my heart hammering. "I'm trying, Mom. I'm trying to be better. But it's so hard when every day is just a reminder. When they all treat her like she's precious and I'm just the wife. The one who couldn't even keep her baby alive." She was crying openly now. I could hear the wet, gasping sounds of someone who'd been holding it together for too long. "I have to go," Lindsay whispered. "Spencer's almost done with his shower. Love you too." Footsteps moved away from my door. I heard their bedroom door click shut. I stood there, frozen, my entire understanding of the situation rearranging itself. Lindsay wasn't evil. She was drowning. She'd lost a baby, and nobody had helped her process it, and she'd turned that grief into something toxic and aimed it at me. Because I was there. Because I was young and alive and represented everything she'd lost. And Spencer was so desperate to keep his marriage together after that trauma that he'd sacrifice me to do it. I sat back down on my bed, my mind racing. This changed things. Not everything. They were still wrong to treat me this way. But it added layers I hadn't considered. Lindsay needed help. Real help. Therapy. Support. Not enablement from Spencer, and definitely not a convenient target for her pain. I looked at my laptop on the desk. Then I looked at the door. Then I made a decision. I opened my laptop and started searching. Not for revenge, not yet. First, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I needed information. I needed to know if my brother was just weak or if there was something more going on. I needed access to the family business accounts that Dad had mentioned last month when he'd asked me that strange question. "Violet, honey, you haven't noticed anything odd with the company balance lately, have you?" At the time, I'd said no. I didn't have access to those accounts, but Spencer did. And Spencer was terrible with passwords. He used the same one for everything. Harper's 2020, the year he and Lindsay got married. I pulled up the Harper & Associates portal, typed in Spencer's email, typed in the password I'd watched him use a dozen times when he was too lazy to log out of his laptop, and just like that, I was in. What I found in the next 30 minutes would change everything. But that's a story for the next part of this mess. For now, all you need to know is this. By the time Spencer finished his shower, By the time Lindsay composed herself and went back to pretending everything was fine, I had already started down a path I couldn't turn back from. I thought they'd grounded me. They had no idea. They'd just freed me. The Harper and Associates client portal loaded with agonizing slowness, the little spinning wheel mocking me as I sat cross-legged on my bed, laptop burning hot against my thighs. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I shouldn't be doing this. I knew I shouldn't be doing this. But Dad's question from 3 weeks ago kept echoing in my mind. "You haven't noticed anything odd with the company balance lately, have you?" At the time, I'd brushed it off. Dad was always worried about something: cash flow, client retention, the economy, whatever kept a small business owner up at 3 a.m. But now, sitting in my room after being grounded like a child, that question felt different, heavier, like Dad had been trying to tell me something without actually telling me. The portal finally loaded. Spencer's dashboard appeared, a clean corporate interface with tabs for projects, clients, finances, and reports. I hesitated, my cursor hovering over the Finances tab. This is probably nothing, I told myself. Spencer's an idiot, but he's not a criminal. I clicked anyway. The financial overview appeared: accounts payable, accounts receivable, operating expenses, payroll. Everything looked normal at first glance: numbers and columns, spreadsheets that would bore anyone to death. But then I saw it, a tab labeled Executive Discretionary, S. Harper. Discretionary spending. Every senior employee at Harper and Associates had an allowance for business expenses, client dinners, conference travel, that sort of thing. Dad's was capped at $2,000 per month. Mom's was $1,100. Spencer's showed transactions totaling $47,000 over the past 6 months. My stomach dropped. I clicked into the detailed view and a list of transactions populated the screen. Each one had a date, an amount, and a brief description. March 15th, $850. Client dinner, Morton's Steakhouse. March 22nd, $2,400. Conference registration, Austin, TX. April 3rd, $1,200. Business development materials, April 18th, 3,001. Client entertainment, Georgetown Waterfront Hotel. The list went on, and on, and on. I grabbed a notebook and started adding. After 10 minutes of frantic scribbling, the number stared back at me: $47,350 in 6 months. That was nearly $8,000 per month in business expenses for a company that employed 12 people and had tight profit margins. I sat back, my mind racing. Maybe it was legitimate. Maybe Spencer really was wining and dining clients, building relationships, generating business. But then I remembered, Spencer wasn't in sales. He was operations manager. His job was internal, managing projects, coordinating teams, keeping things running smoothly. He didn't need to take clients to Morton's Steakhouse. That was Dad's job, and Mom's. I clicked on one of the transactions at random. April 18th, $3,100, client entertainment, Georgetown Waterfront Hotel. A PDF receipt was attached. I opened it. Georgetown Waterfront Hotel. Guest, Spencer Harper. Room 412, Deluxe King Suite. Check-in, April 18th, 2024. Check-out, April 20, 2024. Room rate, $450, night X, 2 nights equals $900. Room service, 380 bar. Charges, 520 spa services, 132. My eyes caught on the last line. Additional. Guest, Madison Reeves, not Lindsay Harper. Madison Reeves. I stared at that name like it might rearrange itself into something that made sense. Madison Reeves. Who the hell was Madison Reeves? My fingers flew across the keyboard. Facebook first. Too common a name. Hundreds of results. Instagram next. I typed Madison Reeves and added Washington, D.C., since that's where we lived. Third result down. At Madison Reeves, D.C. The profile was public. I clicked. The woman in the profile picture was stunning in that effortless way that makes regular people feel inadequate. Late 20s, dark hair and beach waves, hazel eyes, the kind of smile that looked genuine and practiced at the same time. Her feed was a carefully curated mix of coffee shop aesthetics, sunset photos, and gym selfies. Typical millennial professional trying to look like they had their life together. I scrolled through her photos, my heart hammering. Then I found it. A photo from 6 months ago. Madison at what looked like a company party, standing next to a banner that read, Harper and Associates, 15 Years of Excellence. The caption, grateful to be part of this amazing team. Had Harper and Associates, hashtag HR Life, #Best Work Family. HR. She worked in human resources, at my family's company. I kept scrolling. More company photos. Madison at the holiday party. Madison at a team building retreat. Madison in the office kitchen, coffee in hand, laughing at something off camera. And then, 4 months ago, a photo that made my blood run cold. It was taken at night, somewhere upscale. Dim lighting, candles on the table, wine glasses reflecting warm light. Madison was in the foreground, taking the selfie, her smile radiant. And in the background, slightly out of focus but unmistakable, Spencer. He was wearing the blue button-down I'd seen him wear to late-night project meetings. His hand was on the table, close to where Madison's would be. Not touching, not in the photo anyway, but close, intimate. The caption was innocent enough. Nothing like good food and better company to end a long week. But the photo wasn't innocent. The angle, the lighting, the way she'd positioned them. This wasn't a group work dinner. This was a date. I sat there, laptop screen glowing in the dim light of my room, and felt reality reshaping itself around me. Spencer wasn't just stealing from the family business, he was cheating on Lindsay with an HR manager named Madison Reeves, and he'd been doing it for at least 6 months, the same 6 months since Lindsay's miscarriage. I spent the next 2 hours building a case like I was preparing for trial. Screenshots of the financial transactions, the hotel receipt, every photo I could find of Spencer and Madison together, tagged or untagged. I cross-referenced dates. Every time Spencer claimed he had a late meeting or a client emergency, there was a corresponding charge on his discretionary account. Morton's Steakhouse on March 15th. Lindsay had been at her sister's house that night. I remembered because she'd complained about it for days. The Austin conference in March? I checked the Harper and Associates company calendar. There was no conference in Austin. There was nothing in Austin at all. Georgetown Waterfront Hotel for 2 nights in April? Spencer had told Lindsay he was visiting a potential client in Baltimore. Baltimore was 40 miles away. Why would he stay at a hotel in D.C.? The evidence was damning, comprehensive, undeniable. And I had no idea what to do with it. I could expose him, right now. Walk downstairs, show Lindsay everything, watch their marriage implode in real time. Spencer would lose everything. His wife, his job, his reputation. Dad would probably fire him. Mom would be devastated. The family would shatter. But Spencer had threatened me, had tried to control me, had sided with Lindsay's cruelty over and over again, choosing to keep his marriage intact at the expense of his own sister. Didn't he deserve this? I closed my laptop and pressed my palms against my eyes. My head was pounding. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind a sick, hollow feeling. The thing was, I didn't want revenge. Not really. I wasn't the kind of person who enjoyed watching people suffer, even people who'd hurt me. But I also couldn't keep living like this, walking on eggshells, being the scapegoat for Lindsay's unprocessed grief and Spencer's cowardice. I needed leverage, not to destroy him, but to protect myself. And maybe, to force him to be honest for once in his life. I opened my laptop again and started a new folder. Harper Family Documentation, 2024. I saved everything, the screenshots, the receipts, the photos. Then I backed it all up to 3 different cloud services and a USB drive I kept in my desk drawer. By the time I finished, it was almost 11 p.m. The house had gone quiet. I could hear the muffled sound of a TV from Spencer and Lindsay's room, some true crime show Lindsay was obsessed with. Ironic. I changed into pajamas and slid under my covers, but I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, watching car headlights sweep across the walls through my window, and I thought about what came next. I could leave. I had the money. $8,000 in my savings account from 10 months of freelance content writing and social media management. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough for first month's rent, security deposit, and a few months of lean living while I built my client base. But leaving felt like losing, like letting Spencer win, like proving to everyone that I was the problem, the difficult one, the ungrateful daughter who couldn't handle family life. No, I wasn't going to run away. I was going to fight back. But smart, strategic, not with anger, but with truth. Sunday morning arrived with weak sunlight and the smell of bacon. Mom must have come home from her weekend pottery retreat. She always made breakfast after being away, her way of reconnecting with the family. I stayed in my room until almost noon working on a client project. A small boutique in Georgetown needed Instagram captions for their summer collection. It was mind-numbing work, but it paid $200 and kept my skills sharp. Around 12:30, I heard Spencer leave, probably going to the gym, his Sunday ritual. Lindsay was downstairs with Mom, their voices carrying up through the vents. They were talking about garden plants. Utterly normal. This was my window. I saved my work, grabbed my phone, and headed downstairs. Mom and Lindsay were in the kitchen, Mom still in her paint-splattered jeans from pottery class, Lindsay in another matching workout set. "Morning, sweetie," Mom said, her face lighting up when she saw me. Evelyn Harper at 56 was still beautiful in that aging, gracefully way, silver streaks in her dark hair, laugh lines around her eyes, the kind of face that made people trust her immediately. "I heard you and Lindsay had a rough morning yesterday. Want to talk about it?" Lindsay's expression tightened slightly, but she kept smiling, always performing. "Actually," I said carefully, "I was hoping to talk to Spencer when he gets back. Privately." Mom's eyebrows rose. "Oh? Are you going to apologize?" The assumption stung. Of course Mom thought I was in the wrong. Spencer was the golden child, the responsible one, the one who'd stepped up to help run the family business. I was just the flaky younger daughter who'd dropped out of pre-law and spent too much time on her computer. "Something like that," I said neutrally. Lindsay studied me with shrewd eyes. She knew something was different. I could see her trying to figure out what had changed between yesterday's defiance and today's cooperation. "That's very mature of you, Violet," Mom said, touching my shoulder. "Spencer should be back in about an hour. He just texted. He's grabbing lunch with a friend after the gym." A friend? Right. I smiled tightly and headed toward the back door. "I'll be outside. Let me know when he's home." "Of course, honey." I stepped into the backyard, the spring air cool and fresh after yesterday's rain. The yard looked the same as it had my entire life. The old oak tree with the rope swing Dad had installed when I was 6, the patio where we used to have summer barbecues, the garden shed where Spencer and I used to hide during hide and seek. I walked to the oak tree and touched the rough bark, memories flooding back. Spencer pushing me on this swing, higher and higher until I screamed with joy and fear. Spencer teaching me how to climb, positioning my feet on the right branches. Spencer sitting with me under this tree when I was 12, and Melissa Crawford told the whole school I was weird. "You're not weird," he'd said. "You're just smarter than them and that scares them. Don't ever dull yourself down for people who can't handle your shine." When had that Spencer disappeared? When had he turned into someone who chose a toxic marriage over his own sister? I heard the back door open behind me, footsteps on the patio. "Mom said you wanted to talk?" Spencer's voice, cautious, surprised. I turned around. He was still in his gym clothes, shorts, a tank top that showed off the arms he worked so hard to build, a protein shaker in one hand. His dark hair was damp with sweat. He looked tired, older than 30. There were shadows under his eyes I hadn't noticed before. "Yeah," I said quietly. "We need to talk. Just us." He glanced back at the house, probably checking if Lindsay was watching. Then he walked across the yard toward me, stopping a few feet away, close enough to talk, far enough to maintain distance. "Look, Vi," he said, using the childhood nickname he hadn't used in months. "I know yesterday was intense, but you have to understand." "Spencer," I interrupted gently, "this isn't about yesterday." His brow furrowed. "Then what? Do you remember this tree? I asked, touching the bark again. Do you remember teaching me how to climb it? He looked at the oak tree, confusion crossing his face. Of course I do. You were 7. You got stuck 15 feet up and I had to talk you down. You told me the secret was to take it one branch at a time, not to look at how high up I was, just focus on the next step. Yeah. He was watching me carefully now, trying to figure out where this was going. That's how I've been handling the past 8 months, I said softly. One day at a time, one insult at a time, one humiliation at a time, just trying to get through it without falling. Spencer's jaw tightened. Violet, if this is about Lindsay, it's not about Lindsay. I pulled out my phone. Well, it is, but it's more about you. I opened the folder of screenshots and held out my phone. Spencer stepped closer, squinting at the screen. I watched his face as he processed what he was seeing. The hotel receipt, the name Madison Reeves. All the color drained from his face. Violet, he whispered, where did you get this? You left your laptop logged in, I said simply. I was trying to print something for a client. Saw an email notification about unauthorized transfers. Got curious. He grabbed for my phone. I pulled it back. Don't, I said firmly. I have backups. Multiple backups. Spencer stumbled backward, running his hand through his hair. Jesus Christ, Vi, it's not what it looks like. It looks like you've been stealing from Dad's company and using the money to take your HR manager to fancy hotels. I wasn't stealing. He stopped, realizing how ridiculous that sounded. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. We stood there in the backyard of our childhood home, the rope swing swaying gently in the breeze, and I waited for my brother to tell me the truth. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Spencer's shoulders sagged. Can we sit down? He asked quietly. I nodded. We walked to the patio table, the same one where we'd eaten countless family dinners, where Dad had taught us both to play chess, where Mom had served birthday cakes and hot chocolate and all the normal things normal families did. Spencer sat down heavily, his head in his hands. When Lindsay lost the baby, he started, his voice barely above a whisper. Everything fell apart. I waited. She blamed me. Said I'd been working too much, that the stress I caused made her miscarry. The doctors said it wasn't true, it just happens sometimes, but she didn't believe them. Or maybe she needed someone to blame, and I was there. His hands were shaking. She stopped talking to me except to criticize. Everything I did was wrong. The way I loaded the dishwasher, the way I drove, the way I breathed. And I tried, Vi. I really tried to be patient, to understand she was grieving. But she wouldn't go to therapy, wouldn't talk to anyone, just turned all that pain into anger and aimed it at me. So you cheated on her, I said flatly. No, not at first. Spencer looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. I ran into Madison at a conference. We dated years ago before I met Lindsay. It ended amicably. She got a job offer in Seattle, I stayed here. But at that conference, 6 months ago, we started talking again. Just talking. About life. About work. About... He swallowed. About how unhappy I was. And it turned into more. Yeah. His voice cracked. It turned into more. And I know that's inexcusable. I know I should have ended things with Lindsay first. Should have been honest. Should have done 1,000 things differently. But I felt like I was drowning, and Madison was air. I wanted to feel sympathy. Part of me did, but the other part remembered yesterday morning. Remembered being treated like property. Remembered Lindsay's fake tears and Spencer's threats. What about the money? I asked. Spencer closed his eyes. Madison and we've been planning to leave. Not just Lindsay, all of this. We want to start our own consulting firm. The money I took, I was going to pay it back, I swear. I was building capital for the startup. You were stealing from Dad to start a business with your mistress. Don't call her that. That's what she is, Spencer. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Does Lindsay know? I asked. A long pause. Too long. She knows about Madison, he finally admitted. She's known for 2 months. She found texts on my phone. My eyes widened. And she didn't leave you? She threatened to tell Mom and Dad, to destroy my reputation, to make sure I lost everything. His laugh was bitter. She said if I tried to leave her, she'd tell everyone I abandoned her right after she lost our baby, that I'm a monster who chose another woman over his grieving wife. And she's right. That's exactly what it would look like. So she's blackmailing you, basically. And instead of coming clean, instead of facing the consequences like an adult, you decided to take it out on me? Spencer's head snapped up. That's not— Yes, it is, I said, my voice hardening. You're trapped in a toxic situation, so you've been helping Lindsay turn me into the bad guy, making me the scapegoat for both of your misery. If you can control me, punish me, make me apologize for existing, then you get to feel powerful for 5 minutes instead of like the coward you've become. Violet, please. I have questions, I interrupted. And you're going to answer them truthfully, or I'm walking into that house right now and showing Mom everything I found. Spencer's face went gray. What do you want to know? Does Madison know Lindsay is blackmailing you? Yes. Is she okay with you staying married? She says she understands, that we have to wait for the right time. How convenient. I leaned forward. What's Madison's last name again? Reeves? Yes, Madison Reeves. Why? I pulled out my phone again and opened Facebook. Typed in, Peter Reeves bankruptcy, Washington, D.C. The top result was a news article from 2015. Local business owner files Chapter 11 after contract loss. I held it up to Spencer. Peter Reeves filed bankruptcy after losing a major contract to— Let me see, oh, look at that. Harper and Associates. Your company. Dad's company. Spencer grabbed my phone, reading frantically. Peter Reeves is Madison's father, I said quietly. Did you know that? His face told me everything. She never mentioned it, he whispered. Spencer. I took my phone back. I think you need to consider the possibility that Madison isn't in love with you. I think she's been planning something. No, Madison wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Seduce the son of the man who destroyed her father's business? Convince him to steal money from that business? Isolate him from his family? Spencer, think about it. Really think about it. He stood up abruptly, the patio chair scraping against concrete. You don't know her. You don't know what we have. You're right, I agreed. I don't. But I know what I found, and I know you have 48 hours to fix this. What? I stood up too, squaring my shoulders. 48 hours. You're going to come clean to Dad about the money. You're going to end things with Madison, cleanly, publicly, at the office where people can witness it. And you're going to tell Lindsay that you want a divorce, or you're going to commit to real marriage counseling. I don't care which, but you're going to make a choice and stick to it. And if I don't? Then I send everything to Mom, Dad, and the Harper and Associates Board of Directors. Every receipt, every photo, every transaction. And I let the pieces fall where they may. Spencer's hands clenched into fists. For a second, I thought he might actually hit me. But then his shoulders slumped and he just looked defeated. Vi, please. You don't understand how complicated this is. Then you have 48 hours to uncomplicate it, I said firmly. Starting now. I walked past him toward the back door. My hand was on the handle when he spoke again. Violet? I turned. Why are you doing this? Why not just expose me? Get your revenge? I looked at my brother, this man I used to worship, who used to protect me, who'd somehow lost himself in lies and selfishness and fear. Because you're my brother, I said simply. And I remember who you used to be. I'm giving you a chance to be that person again. Don't waste it. I opened the door and went inside. Behind me, Spencer stood alone in the backyard, surrounded by ghosts of the childhood we'd shared. And I wondered if 48 hours would be enough time to save him, or if it was already too late. I didn't sleep that night. Monday morning arrived gray and humid. I was staring at the USB drive containing all my evidence when I heard it. A soft knock. 3 deliberate taps. Not Spencer's knock. Come in, I said warily. Lindsay stood there in yoga pants and an oversized cardigan, her blonde hair down, no makeup. She looked younger, more vulnerable, and she was holding 2 mugs of coffee. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. Every instinct screamed trap, but curiosity won. "Sure." Lindsay stepped inside, closing the door. She handed me 1 mug, hazelnut latte my favorite, and sat on my bed, cradling her own like a shield. "I heard you," she finally said. "Yesterday, in the backyard, with Spencer." My stomach dropped. "How much?" "All of it." Her hands trembled. "Our bedroom window was open. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but then I heard my name, and I froze." I set my coffee down, mind racing. She knew about my ultimatum, the evidence. She could— "I'm not here to fight," Lindsay interrupted. "I'm here to say thank you for giving him 48 hours, for not just destroying him. That's more grace than I've shown anyone in months." This wasn't the conversation I'd expected. "I've been a monster to you, Violet." Her voice cracked. "When I lost the baby, something inside me broke. And instead of getting help, I let the broken parts hurt everyone around me, especially you, because you're young and healthy and have your whole life ahead of you, and I couldn't stand it." Real tears streamed down her face. "Spencer enabled it because he felt guilty," she continued. "We created this toxic cycle, and you got caught in the crossfire." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked carefully. "Because I overheard something else. About Madison Reeves, about her father." Our eyes met. "I did research last night," Lindsay said, pulling out her phone. "Screenshots of Facebook posts from 2015. The Harper family will regret what they did to us. My dad gave everything to his business. They destroyed him for a contract. I'll never forget." "She's been planning this," Lindsay said flatly. "Using Spencer to get revenge on your father. And I've been so focused on my own pain that I let it happen. I kept Spencer trapped while she manipulated him." "You blackmailed him," I said bluntly. "I did." She didn't flinch. "I wanted him to hurt like I was hurting. But last night I realized, if I keep him trapped out of spite, I'm helping Madison destroy your family." "Our family," I corrected quietly. "Not for much longer." Lindsay's expression hardened with resolve. "I'm filing for divorce, quietly, amicably, no drama. No, because if I expose Spencer publicly, Madison wins. She gets him destroyed, your father's company damaged, and walks away clean. I won't give her that satisfaction." I studied this woman who'd made my life hell for 8 months and saw something unexpected. Strength. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "I need to know your plan." I took a sip of coffee, thinking. "I want Spencer to come clean to Dad about the money, end things with Madison publicly at work, and choose, fix your marriage with real therapy, or give you the divorce you deserve." "I choose divorce," Lindsay said immediately. "We've been done since the baby. We just didn't have the courage to admit it." "Then we need to do something else," I said slowly. "Something that protects the family and exposes Madison for what she really is." Lindsay leaned forward. "I'm listening." That evening, the Harper family gathered in the living room. Mom and Dad on the couch, confused. Spencer in the armchair, pale. Lindsay beside me on the love seat, her hand briefly squeezing mine. 7 p.m. Sunset through the bay window cast long shadows. "Lindsay said this was urgent," Dad said, his beard not quite hiding his frown. "What's going on?" George Harper at 58 looked like a man who'd worked hard his entire life. Strong hands, tired eyes, someone who carried responsibility well. "Spencer has something to tell you," Lindsay said quietly. "About the company finances." The air left the room. Dad sat up straighter. "What about the finances?" Spencer opened his mouth, closed it, looked at me desperately. I pulled out my laptop showing the spreadsheet. "Spencer's taken $47,000 over 6 months, coded as business expenses. They're not." Dad's face went thunderous. "Spencer, tell me this isn't true." "I can explain." "Can you?" Mom's voice was small, hurt. "Can you explain why you've been stealing?" "It wasn't stealing." I was going to pay it back. To fund your affair? Dad stood, real anger flashing. Spencer's head snapped toward me. You told them? I told them everything, Lindsay said, standing to face Spencer. About Madison, the hotels, your plan to leave and start a business with her. And about me too, she continued. How I blackmailed you after I found out. How I've been trapping you in this marriage. Mom made a small, pained sound. Who's Madison? Dad asked dangerously. Madison Reeves, I said. HR at Harper & Associates. She and Spencer dated years ago. Peter Reeves's daughter? Dad's eyes widened. The Peter Reeves whose contract we won in 2015? The same. I pulled up Madison's archived posts. The threats, revenge promises. She's been planning this, Spencer, I said. The timing, manipulation, convincing you to steal, it's revenge for what happened to her father. Those posts are 9 years old, Spencer insisted weakly. When's the last time Madison asked about you? Lindsay challenged. Your life, interests, dreams? Or does she only talk about Harper & Associates, your parents, the business? Spencer's silence was damning. Mom was crying. Spencer, how could you? I was drowning. Spencer's voice broke. Lindsay was blaming me for the baby. I felt like I was suffocating. The doorbell rang. We all froze. Then a voice from outside. Spencer, we need to talk about tomorrow. About telling your parents about us. Madison Reeves. My heart stopped. Did you invite her? I hissed. No, I texted this morning, told her I needed to see her. She must have thought. The knocking intensified. Spencer, your truck's in the driveway. If you don't answer, I'm coming in. You gave me a key, remember? Dad's face went purple. She has a key to our house? I'll get it, Lindsay said, standing. She walked to the door like a woman going into battle. Madison Reeves stood on the porch in a designer dress and heels, carrying wine. She looked like she was arriving at a cocktail party. Her smile faltered seeing Lindsay. Oh, I didn't realize. Come in, Madison, Lindsay said coldly. We've been expecting you. Madison stepped inside. Her smile vanished, seeing us assembled, my laptop displaying her old posts. What is this? An intervention, Dad said, standing. For my son, who you've been manipulating. Madison's face went blank. I have no idea. Really? I turned my laptop toward her. Hotel stays, restaurant bills, all charged to Harper & Associates, all with you. Those were legitimate business? Bull, Dad cut her off. You're HR, Spencer's operations. No business reason for traveling together. And your father's bankruptcy, Lindsay added. The Harper contract. The timeline of when you applied here, 6 months after he lost everything. My qualifications speak for themselves. Do they? Mom spoke quietly. I just talked to Karen in HR. You lied on your application, said you had no connection to past litigation, but your father sued us after losing that contract, didn't he? Madison's facade crumbled. George Harper destroyed my father's life. He worked himself to death trying to rebuild after you stole. I didn't steal anything, Dad said firmly. I submitted a better bid. That's business. I'm sorry your father couldn't recover, but that doesn't justify this. What about what you did? Madison's laugh was bitter. You ruined him. He died 3 years ago, broken and humiliated, and you didn't even send a card. Silence. I didn't know, Dad said, genuinely shaken. If I had, you wouldn't have cared. Her voice was venomous. Just like you didn't care when you destroyed his business. That's not what happened, Dad interrupted. The market was tough in 2015. Many companies went under. It wasn't personal. It was personal to me. Madison turned to Spencer desperately. Tell them we're in love, that this has nothing to do with my father. Spencer looked at her, really looked. When's my birthday? Madison blinked. What? My birthday. When is it? What's my favorite movie? Food? Where did I go to college? What do I want to do besides work for my dad? What am I afraid of? What makes me happy? Madison's mouth opened. Closed. No answers. You don't know, Spencer said, heartbroken. Because you never asked. You only talked about the company, my parents, how we could build something together. What's my sister's major? Spencer asked suddenly. Do you even know her name? Madison looked at me blankly. Violet, I said. We've never met. In 8 months, you never came to a family dinner, never asked to meet us, because we weren't part of your plan. Get out, Dad said. Madison's head snapped toward him. Get out of my house! You're fired! You used your position to seduce my son, steal money, attempt sabotage. I'll consult lawyers about pressing charges. You can't. I can. What happened to your father was tragic, but it wasn't my fault, and it doesn't justify this. You've hurt my son, damaged my business, tried to destroy my family. Madison stood there, chest heaving, eyes wild. Then something broke. Your whole perfect family deserves to hurt like my father hurt, she whispered. Like I hurt. Madison, Spencer said with tears, I'm sorry about your dad, but hurting others doesn't heal your pain. It just spreads it. Don't pity me. I don't. I pity who you could have been if you'd chosen therapy instead of revenge. Madison grabbed her purse and walked out. The door slammed. No one spoke. Then Spencer straightened his shoulders. I'm sorry, to all of you. I'll pay back every cent. Sell my truck if needed. Work any position. Go to therapy. Whatever it takes to earn your trust. It'll take years, Dad said. I know. Lindsay stood. I'm filing for divorce, not out of spite, out of honesty. This marriage was over when we lost the baby. It's freedom. For both of us. She hugged Spencer briefly. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I need to let go of the anger. She turned to me. Violet, I owe you the biggest apology. I made your life hell because I was in hell. I'm getting real help. Therapy. And someday I hope you can forgive me too. I looked at this woman who'd tormented me, who'd finally found the surface after drowning. I hope therapy helps, I said honestly. I really do. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start.